The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. Emily stood by the kitchen window, watching drops race down the glass, wondering when things in her life would stop feeling so heavy. Her husband, Mark, had been distant for weeks. Their conversations had turned short and practical, nothing more than quiet exchanges about bills and groceries. Still, she tried to keep their home warm, even when the light in the living room flickered out one Friday evening. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Emily sighed, staring at the dead bulb. She wasn't good with fixing things, and Mark was too tired to care. "I'll call someone tomorrow," he had said, scrolling on his phone without looking up. The next day, a soft knock came at the door. It was Ryan, Mark's old friend from college. He was in town for a few weeks, helping with a construction project nearby. He had one of those calm smiles that seemed to ease tension the moment he stepped inside. "Mark told me you needed help with a light?" he asked. Emily nodded. "Yeah, it's been acting up. I didn't want to bother anyone." "Not a bother," Ryan said, walking in with his toolbox. "I've fixed a few worse ones." She led him to the living room, embarrassed by the clutter of half-folded laundry and a coffee cup she'd forgotten on the table. He didn't seem to notice. He just got to work, steady and patient. The light flickered once, then glowed bright. "There," he said, smiling. "Just needed a new connection." Emily couldn't help but smile back. "You make it look easy," Ryan shrugged. "Sometimes small things just need the right touch." For a brief moment, the room felt lighter, not because of the bulb, but because of how kind he sounded. They chatted for a while. Ryan asked how she'd been, how work was going, and how she liked the neighborhood. It had been months since anyone asked her that with genuine interest. When Mark came home later, Ryan was still there. The two men hugged, laughing about old college memories. Emily sat back listening. She loved seeing Mark smile again, even if it wasn't because of her. Over the next week, Ryan started dropping by often, to check if everything was working fine, or to borrow tools he probably didn't need. He'd help Emily with little things Mark didn't have time for, fixing a loose shelf, tightening a door hinge, trimming the overgrown hedge in the front yard. Each time, Emily told herself it was harmless. He was just helping, but she couldn't ignore the quiet feeling that grew each time he smiled at her. One afternoon, while she was watering plants, Ryan stopped by again. "You know," he said, brushing his hands on his jeans, "you should get out of the house more. You seem like you need a break." She laughed softly. "A break from what?" "From holding everything together," he said. The words stayed with her long after he left. That night, Mark came home late again. He barely noticed the dinner Emily had prepared. "I'm just tired," he said. "Don't start." "I wasn't," she whispered. But the silence between them said everything. Later, lying awake in bed, she thought about Ryan's words. Maybe she had been holding too much for too long. The next morning, she found a small note slipped under her front door. It was from Ryan. It simply said, "You deserve some light too." Emily's heart pounded. She didn't know what it meant, or why it made her feel like she couldn't breathe. Was it kindness? Or something more? As the rain started again, she stared at that note, unsure whether to smile or be afraid of what might come next. Emily kept the note tucked inside a cookbook, as if hiding it would make the feeling go away. But every time she opened the kitchen drawer or glanced at the light Ryan had fixed, her chest tightened. It wasn't that she wanted anything to happen. She just couldn't stop thinking about what he meant by, "You deserve some light too." She told herself it was nothing. A friendly gesture. Ryan was kind, thoughtful. That's all. Still, when he texted later that week asking if she needed help with the garden fence, she hesitated only a moment before replying, "Sure, that would be nice." When he arrived, the sky was bright and blue after days of rain. The ground smelled fresh, and the yard shimmered with sunlight. Emily brought out 2 glasses of lemonade. "You didn't have to," Ryan said, smiling as he set his tools down. "You're helping me again," she said lightly. "It's the least I can do." They worked side by side for over an hour. Ryan hummed to himself, hammering nails and testing the wood. Emily found herself laughing at his quiet jokes. "Mark ever help with stuff like this?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "Not lately. He's been different." "Different how?" She hesitated. "Tired, distracted. I don't know if he even notices me anymore." Ryan looked up, his expression softening. "That's hard. You don't deserve to be invisible." The words hit her like a wave. She looked away quickly, pretending to adjust a plant. "I'm not invisible," she murmured. "I didn't mean—" He started, but she cut him off with a small smile. "It's fine." When the fence was done, he stepped back to admire it. "Looks good. Stronger than before." "Thank you," she said. "Really?" Ryan nodded. "Anytime." That evening, Mark came home later than usual. Emily sat waiting at the table with dinner reheated twice. "Sorry," he said, barely glancing at her. "Work's been crazy." "You've been saying that a lot," she said quietly. He sighed, sitting down. Because it's true." "Then talk to me," she said. "Please." He rubbed his forehead. "I'm tired, Em. I can't do this right now." Her throat tightened. "Do what?" "This?" He gestured vaguely. "The questions, the mood. I just need peace." She nodded, swallowing hard. "Right. Peace." They ate in silence, the ticking of the wall clock louder than anything else. Later that night, Emily stood alone in the dark living room, staring at the light Ryan had fixed. It glowed steady, warm. A small reminder of something simple and kind. The next day, she found herself outside again, checking the fence. She didn't expect Ryan to be there, but he was, walking down the street, carrying a bag of tools. "Morning," he called, smiling. "Morning," she said, surprised. "You're here early." "Thought I'd check on that hinge on your gate," he said. "Didn't sit right last time." She tried to hide the flutter in her chest. "You really don't have to keep fixing things." "Maybe I like helping," he said. She laughed softly. "Or maybe you just can't sit still." "Maybe both," he admitted. For a while, they didn't say much. Just worked quietly in the cool morning air. When he finished, he brushed the dust off his hands. "You know," he said, "you've got a peaceful place here. Feels calm." "Sometimes," she said. "Other times it feels like the walls are closing in." He looked at her for a long moment. "You ever think about getting away? Even just for a day?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "Take a drive. Clear your head." "You deserve that," she opened her mouth to reply, but Mark's car pulled into the driveway. Ryan stepped back quickly. "I'll see you around," he said, picking up his tools. Mark glanced at him as he got out. "What's he doing here again?" "He was fixing the gate," Emily said. "It's been loose." Mark frowned. "He doesn't need to keep showing up here, Em. I can handle things." She forced a smile. "You said you were too busy." "I said I'm tired." "Not useless," he muttered, walking past her. Emily stood there, feeling something inside her twist. Guilt, anger, confusion, she couldn't tell which. That night, Mark fell asleep early. Emily sat by the window, looking out at the faint glow of the streetlight. Her phone buzzed, a message from Ryan. It said, "Did I cause trouble?" "I'm sorry if I did." She stared at it for a long time before typing back. "No, you didn't." Then, after a pause, she added, "Thank you for caring." He replied, "Always." Emily set the phone down, her heart pounding. She didn't know what line they were crossing, or if they'd already crossed it. The light above her flickered once, then went out completely, and in that sudden darkness, she realized her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet understand. The next morning, sunlight poured through the blinds, but the house still felt dim. Mark had already left for work, leaving behind a cold cup of coffee and the quiet sound of rain beginning again outside. Emily sat at the table, staring at her phone. Ryan's last message, "Always," glowed faintly on the screen. She should delete it, she told herself. But she didn't. Instead, she typed. The light went out again, then quickly erased it. She couldn't keep giving him reasons to come, or maybe she just didn't trust herself not to. A knock came at the door around 10. She froze, her heart jumping. When she opened it, there he was, holding a small box of light bulbs. "Thought you might need these?" Ryan said. "Just in case." She couldn't help but laugh softly. "You're unbelievable." "Maybe," he said, smiling, "but your light shouldn't stay out." She let him in. This time, the silence between them felt heavier. Not awkward, just charged. As he fixed the new bulb, Emily watched how steady his hands were, how quietly confident he seemed. It reminded her of a time when Mark used to be like that. Present, dependable, warm. When the bulb clicked on, the room filled with golden light. "Perfect," she whispered. Ryan turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Emily, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Are you happy?" The question hit harder than she expected. "Why would you ask that?" He looked down. "Because every time I see you, you look like someone trying to pretend she's fine." Her throat tightened. "I'm married, Ryan." "I know," he said quietly. "And I respect that. But I can still care." The air between them seemed to thicken. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she stepped back, putting space between them. "You should go," she said softly. Ryan nodded. "You're right." He gathered his things and headed toward the door. Before leaving, he paused. "For what it's worth, I didn't mean to make things complicated. I just wanted to see you smile again." And then he was gone. That night, Mark came home late again. He smelled faintly of cologne that wasn't his usual brand. Emily noticed but said nothing. He dropped his jacket on the couch. "I might be working out of town next week," he said. "Oh," she said. "Where?" "Seattle. A client wants me there for a few days." She nodded slowly. "That's far. Just work," he said. "Don't start worrying." "I'm not," she said, even though she was. When he went upstairs, Emily sat alone again, staring at the light Ryan had fixed. It glowed steady and warm, just like before. But this time, instead of comfort, it felt like a reminder of everything uncertain between them. The next morning, she decided to go for a drive. The air was crisp, the roads quiet. She hadn't planned where to go. She just needed space. Halfway across town, she pulled into a small diner she used to visit years ago with Mark. The same old neon sign still flickered above the window. She ordered coffee and sat by the window, watching cars pass. Then she saw Ryan. He was across the street, standing near a hardware store. Their eyes met through the glass, both of them startled. He crossed quickly and came inside. "Emily?" he said, trying not to smile too much. "What are the odds?" She shook her head, laughing softly. "Pretty strange coincidence." "Or maybe it's not," he said. They sat for a while, sipping coffee. The conversation drifted easily, light, normal. Until it wasn't. Ryan leaned forward. "You shouldn't have to feel alone all the time. You know that, right?" Emily stared at him, unsure what to say. "I'm not trying to step in where I don't belong," he said quickly. I see you. And I think maybe no one else does." Her chest tightened. "Ryan, you have to stop saying things like that." He nodded slowly. "I know. I'm sorry." But his eyes didn't match his words. When she got home later, Mark was packing. "Got the flight moved up," he said. "I'll be gone a little longer than planned." "How long?" she asked. "About a week." She forced a smile. "Okay, be safe." He nodded, gave her a quick hug, and left without another word. The house fell silent again. That night, a storm rolled in. Rain hit the windows, thunder echoing through the walls. Around midnight, the power flickered and went out. Emily reached for her phone, trying to find the flashlight. Just then, it buzzed. A message from Ryan. It said, "Storm knocked power out at my place, too." "You okay?" She hesitated, then replied, "Yes. It's dark here." A moment later, "I'm nearby. Want me to bring you a lantern?" Her fingers hovered over the screen. She knew what she should say. She also knew what she wanted to say. Finally, she typed, "If it's not too much trouble." Within minutes, headlights appeared outside. When she opened the door, Ryan stood there, rain dripping from his jacket. holding a small lantern glowing softly in the dark. "Thought you could use some light," he said quietly. Emily looked at him. The rain, the glow, the steady warmth in his eyes, and something inside her shifted. She didn't know if it was wrong or right. Only that, for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel invisible. Rain poured harder as Ryan stepped inside, shaking water from his jacket. Emily closed the door behind him, her heart pounding with every rumble of thunder outside. He set the lantern on the table, its soft yellow glow spilling across the room. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, though her voice trembled. "Just a little jumpy. Storms always get to me." "Understandable," he said. "It's rough out there." For a few moments, neither spoke. The house creaked, wind pressed against the windows, and the faint hum of rain filled the silence. Emily stared at the lantern light, its flicker soft on Ryan's face. "You really didn't have to come all the way here," she said. "I couldn't sleep anyway," he replied. "Figured I'd rather make sure you were all right," she smiled faintly. "You're too kind. Or too restless," he said with a quiet laugh. Emily poured him a cup of tea, grateful for something to do with her hands. They sat at the table like old friends, talking softly over the storm. He told her stories about the construction project, about his small apartment downtown, about missing home but enjoying the quiet here. She listened, leaning into every word, because it felt good to hear a voice that wasn't rushed or distracted. When thunder shook the windows again, she flinched. Ryan glanced up. "You really hate storms, huh?" "I always have," she admitted. "They remind me of arguments. My parents used to fight a lot when it rained." He nodded slowly. "Guess that kind of memory doesn't fade easy." "No," she said softly. "It doesn't." He looked at her, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Understanding, warmth, maybe even longing. Ryan reached out, almost hesitantly, and covered her hand with his. "You don't have to go through everything alone, Emily." Her chest tightened. "Ryan, I know," he said quickly, pulling his hand back. "I'm sorry." But she shook her head. "No, don't apologize." They sat in silence, the air heavy and alive with everything they didn't say. Outside, lightning flashed across the sky. The light from the lantern wavered. Emily felt her pulse quicken. "I should check the fuse box," she said suddenly, standing up just to steady herself. "I'll go with you," Ryan said. In the basement, the air was cool and damp. Ryan held the lantern up while Emily fumbled with the switches. "Guess we're stuck like this until morning," she said, half smiling. "That's okay," he said quietly. "The light's enough." When they came back upstairs, the rain had softened. The house felt smaller, quieter, like it was holding its breath. They sat again, both pretending not to feel the tension that hung between them. Finally, Ryan stood. "I should head back before it gets worse again." Emily followed him to the door. "Thank you for coming," he smiled. "Anytime." She opened the door and cold air rushed in. He stepped out, rain misting his hair. For a moment, they just stood there. Two people caught between what they wanted and what they knew they shouldn't want. Then he nodded, gave her a small wave, and disappeared into the dark. Emily closed the door slowly, pressing her back against it. The lantern flickered beside her, shadows dancing on the walls. When she went upstairs to her room, the bed felt emptier than usual. Mark hadn't called. Not once. She stared at the ceiling, wondering what he was doing in Seattle. Wondering if he missed her at all. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving the air washed clean. She stepped outside with her coffee, barefoot in the damp grass. Across the street, Ryan's truck was parked crooked in his driveway. He must have gotten home late, she almost waved. But she stopped herself. That afternoon, Mark called. "Hey," he said, his voice faint and distracted. "Sorry I didn't check in. Long day." "It's fine," she said. "How are things there?" "Good," she lied. "Just quiet." "Yeah," he said. "Listen, I might need to stay a few more days." Of course, she said softly. Work comes first, he hesitated. You sound different, do I? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired. After they hung up, Emily sat on the couch, staring at nothing. The distance between them felt too wide now, not miles, but years of missed moments and quiet goodbyes. By evening, she heard another knock. Ryan stood at the door again, this time with a small brown paper bag. I made soup, he said with an easy smile. Thought you could use something warm after that storm. She hesitated only a second before letting him in, the house filled with the smell of herbs and something homemade. They ate together, quietly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. When they finished, Ryan looked at her for a long time before speaking. Emily, I need to tell you something. She felt her heartbeat quicken. What is it? He took a slow breath. I might have to leave soon. The project's wrapping up early. Her chest sank. When? A few days. Maybe less? Oh, she said softly. That's sudden. Yeah? He smiled faintly. Didn't expect to care about leaving, but I do. Emily looked down, trying to steady her voice. You've been a good friend, Ryan. He hesitated, then said quietly, That's not all I want to be. She froze. The words hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed on the counter, Mark's name flashing across the screen. She looked at Ryan, torn between two worlds, and for the first time, she didn't know which one still felt like home. Emily didn't answer the call. She just stood there, frozen, the phone vibrating against the counter while Ryan watched her in silence. When it finally stopped ringing, the room felt unbearably quiet. Maybe you should get that, Ryan said softly. She shook her head. He'll call again. Ryan looked down, his voice steady but heavy. Emily, I don't want to make things harder for you. You haven't, she said quickly. I have, he interrupted gently. Because I care about you more than I should. The honesty in his voice shook her. Ryan, he gave a faint smile. I know you're married. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know before I go. Tears stung her eyes before she could stop them. Why now? Because I don't want to leave without being honest. Outside, the last of the rain dripped from the eaves, steady and slow. The sound filled the silence between them. Emily turned away, pressing her hands against the counter to steady herself. You came into my life when everything felt dark, she whispered. And now I don't even know where the light belongs anymore. Ryan stepped closer, but not too close. It belongs with you. Always has. She looked up, meeting his eyes. They stood there, not touching, not speaking. Just two people caught in something too complicated to name. Then, finally, she exhaled. I think you should go before it gets harder. He nodded slowly. Yeah, probably best. He turned toward the door, paused once, then looked back. Take care of yourself, Emily. You deserve more than being someone's afterthought. She wanted to say something. Thank you. Don't go, I'll miss you. But the words wouldn't come. When the door closed, she sank into the nearest chair and let herself cry. It wasn't because Ryan was gone. It was because she finally saw everything clearly. What she'd been missing, what she'd been holding on to, and how lonely her marriage had truly become. The next few days passed quietly. Mark returned from Seattle, tired and cheerful, as if nothing had changed. Trip went well, he said, unpacking his bag. Client's happy. We might get another contract. That's great, she said softly. He smiled and kissed her cheek, distracted. How are things here? Peaceful, she said. That night, while Mark talked about work and travel, Emily listened with a calm detachment she didn't recognize. The sound of his voice was familiar, but it no longer reached her heart the way it used to. When he fell asleep, she sat by the window again, watching the faint light from across the street. Ryan's house was dark, empty. He'd left, just like he said he would. For days, she kept expecting to see his truck drive by or hear a knock on the door. but it never came. And strangely, that hurt less than she thought it would, because what Ryan had given her wasn't confusion, it was clarity. He'd reminded her that she still needed to feel seen, valued, alive. And if her marriage couldn't offer that, she needed to find a way to rebuild it, or finally admit it was broken. Weeks later, Mark came home early one evening, surprising her. "You've been quiet lately," he said. "Everything okay?" Emily took a breath. "Not really," he frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we don't talk anymore, Mark, not really. I feel like we're just existing next to each other." He looked stunned. "Where is this coming from?" "From years of pretending everything's fine," she said gently. "And it's not." Mark sat down slowly, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't realize you felt that way." "I know," she said softly. "That's the problem." For a long time, neither spoke. The evening light spilled through the window, catching the dust in the air. It felt like the house itself was listening. Finally, Mark sighed. "Do you still want this, us?" She hesitated, not because she didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud made it real. "I want to," she said quietly. "But I don't know how." He nodded, eyes heavy. "Then maybe we start over. If you'll let me try." Emily looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in a long while, she saw a flicker of the man she once fell in love with. She nodded slowly. "Okay, let's try." That night when Mark went to bed, Emily walked to the kitchen and turned on the light Ryan had fixed. It glowed steady and warm, filling the room with the same soft gold it always had. She stood beneath it for a moment. Smiling through quiet tears, Ryan had left, but his words remained. "You deserve some light too." And now, she finally understood. The light she needed wasn't from someone else. It had been waiting inside her all along,